Okay, so before you guys ask, where's the battle for our final week here of the BBL, I'm going to be going over everything in this video. So, get past YouTube, aka what's up YouTube, how's it going guys? We are here at the end of the season for BBL, and we were able to thankfully make playoffs for the season. Now, as you can see, my record for the season here was 6-4. We're not going to go into the detail about the losses, but I will let y'all know right now my final week match, which was against Blue here, the coach of the San Diego State Azovs. That missing Pokemon right here should be a Togekiss. I don't know why it's not showing up, but it's fine. But I ended up throwing my match against Blue here. If you guys really want to see the battle, then maybe I'll put like the replay link down in the description. Like it was it was a wash. I tried to throw to lose 5-0 so I could get a better round one matchup for playoffs, because I would much rather play who I'm currently playing for round one than play Panther. If you guys saw earlier in the season, I mentioned that Panther's matchup against us was easily the worst matchup we had the entire season, and then if I had won my final week match, I would have had to play him in round one of playoffs, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. So I threw my final week game and lost 5-0. I don't really count that as a loss. I think the only real one loss that we had was against Panther. Two of our other losses were due to some unfortunate luck, but I guess it could have still gone either way depending on how things went. So yeah, through our last week match so we could get a better round one playoff opponent here. This is actually the team matchup for my week 10 match, but if you guys want to see my round one playoff matchup here, I'll go over that real quickly. I'm not going to be giving any details on what exactly I want to bring, obviously, because I don't want to give my opponent any insight on what I will be bringing, but I do want to go over the other playoff matches for our round one here. There's going to be 4 games if I'm not mistaken, so I'm going to be going over my game and the other 3 games. So let me know what you guys are excited for in the playoff here. Which match are you most excited for in the playoff game here? So the first round opponent that I will now be playing instead of Panther, think Arceus, even though we have to face an Arceus. I would rather face Arceus than face freaking Marshadow plus Greninja and Mew. That's just really difficult for my team to deal with. Even though Arceus Dark plus Aegislash isn't that less scary, it's more manageable, I think. So going into this game, I've already thought of a few different things to potentially bring to this matchup, but there's no denying that Arceus Dark is absolutely terrifying. Aegislash is also pretty annoying. Zeraora is an amazing Pokemon in Draft League format. I'm surprised that it was so underrated when it first got released and introduced in the format. It's really been shining lately in the Draft League format. And then he does have pretty fat Mons in Audino and Mega Slowbro. It's not turn 1 Mega either, so that Mega Slowbro can be around in the back for a while. Then Domfan and Xatu are nice defensively. Shiinotic side of Pokemon. And then Garbodor. I love Garbodor, dude. Garbodor is probably one of my favorite lower tier picks for Draft League format. So yeah, very scary team for our round one here, but hopefully we can pull out a victory. So let's take a look at our next round one playoff game here. We have my boy DyeItTight and his new brand Rockruffs going up against the San Diego Azovs, who, as I mentioned, was our week 10 opponent, but now they're playing Dye here week 1. Again, this missing Pokemon should be a Togekiss. I don't know why it's not showing. But yeah, looking at this matchup, trapping is probably going to be really huge for Blue going into this game. So that's probably going to force Dye to either run potential Scarfers that Blue might not expect, like maybe Scarf Victini. Mega Lopunny is the only Pokemon that Dye has that can outspeed Gengar, and that's actually really good for Dye. Obviously that is bad for Blue, but the thing about Mega Gengar is that if it traps the right thing with like Substitute, if it's behind a sub, then it doesn't really matter if Lopunny can outspeed Gengar, because once it comes in, yeah, it'll break the sub, but then Gengar could probably just one-shot it, and that would be really bad for Dye. It can also trap his Arceus Fairy, which I think Arceus Fairy is probably the biggest threat that Dye has going into this game. Like, Victini is a problem, but unless he is Shed Shell or Scarfed, then there's always the terror of Gengar potentially coming in. Although I guess he could run the Ghost Weakening Berry Victini, or maybe something like Assault Vest Victini to guarantee live a hit. So that's always something that Blue is going to have to potentially take into consideration. Hydreigon actually looks really good from Blue's perspective, minus the Arceus, although he can always take on something like Toxic, or he could just be Scarf Flash Cannon for late game potentially. I'm not sure what kind of Hydreigon set he would want to bring to this game. Scarfed or Sub makes sense. And Fernape is actually extremely difficult for Dye to switch into. Unless he has like Fat Arceus Fairy, then there's not really much else that switches into Infernape. So if Blue can trap and get rid of Arceus Fairy, then Infernape just kind of comes in and potentially just wins, which is actually really scary. I'm a huge advocate of Infernape. Infernape is absolutely one of my top favorite Pokemon in Draft League format. I feel like it's underrated. A lot of people give it a lot of flack, but it's an absolute monster, and I really hope that Blue can definitely make it shine in this match here. Besides that, I don't really think there's too much else that Blue really has to threaten Dye's team. Like, Dye has Victini, which Victini absolutely can murder something depending on the set. If it's like Trick Room or if it's the right type of item to deal with Gengar, it could definitely also deal with the Gengar. Mega Lopunny can more or less just kind of come in on Blue's team unless he does have a defensive Togekiss. So yeah, Lopunny can definitely still put in a lot of work here, especially because he needs it to 100% guarantee outspeed the Gengar unless he's going to rely on some type of Scarfer. Although Webs could also be an option from Dye's side, but I definitely think that Blue is going to take that into consideration. So I don't think Dye should solely rely on Webs going into this matchup. Either way though, this is looking like a really good matchup. Like, both Blue and Dye have threats. Both of their fire types are extremely threatening to the opposing team. Also, the Oricorio can be any form of Oricorio, I'm pretty sure, so it's not actually fire Oricorio. So I don't know, maybe Oricorio could be a little sleeper threat, but I don't know. Hopefully this is a good game though. My boy Kelly Under the Radar going up against my buddy the Weeaboo Ultra Player and his Philadelphia Soul Dude. Now, these two actually did play in week 1 of the BBL, and Kelly ended up winning 4-0, which you can kind of barely see it probably. I don't know if you can see it by the way I have the dimension set. But yeah, we've already seen that Kelly can beat Ultra Player. I know Ultra Player is probably just happy to have made it to the playoffs here. His season was a little bit rough, and I think he just barely got into playoffs because I think somebody ended up dropping. So yeah, I'm not sure how serious Ultra Player will be taking this, but I know Kelly, even though Kelly is done with 7th Gen, he keeps telling me he really wants to win the BBL. So I really feel like this is going to be a good battle, especially if Ultra does put an effort and he really does try, because I mentioned this before when I played Ultra Player earlier in the season. He's really hit or miss, but when he hits, he's definitely on point. So I can definitely see him trying to bust out the tech and bust out the heat to try and hopefully win this round 1 game. Although I'm not gonna lie, I do have to go with my boy Kelly to hopefully win the match here. So yeah, this should definitely be another really good battle. They both have big threats. Mega Mewtwo X is absolutely terrifying. I think that alone pretty much wrecks through Ultra Player's team. Although Ultra does have Xerneas, which if you look at Kelly's team, his only real steel type is Mawile, and that technically is not the bulkiest steel type around, so Xerneas is definitely a giant issue for him to deal with. Battle Bond Greninja can be an absolute nightmare to deal with if it is allowed to get its Ash form off, because it's going to be even faster and hitting even stronger than it already does. It definitely will be putting in work, especially in a Draft League format where you can just tailor make it set to deal with what exactly you need it to deal with. Although I'm not gonna lie, Alolan Muck could be a hard stop to both Xerneas and Greninja, so Ultra definitely wants to try and get rid of that Alolan Muck if he ever wants both of those to put in some work. Something kind of cool could be like Trick Room with Mega Abomasnow late game. I know Ultra Player's really been digging a Mega Abomasnow through this season. He's brought it a lot more times than I thought he would, so who knows, maybe he'll bring it here and hopefully it'll put in a little bit of work. But yeah, not too much to say about this matchup, mainly because I already feel like Kelly has an advantage in this game because he's already being Ultra Player earlier in the season. Again, Ultra does have a good chance to win here if he sits down and buckles up and really wants to try and win the playoffs here. So we'll see how it goes though. And then our final playoff game is going to be my boy Panther going up against my other homie, my good friend the Flying Bird here. So this matchup I really am kind of torn between, but if I had to pick one, I would definitely have to go with Bird. I really want Bird to beat Panther because I do not want to play Panther. I don't think you guys understand this. My matchup against Panther is absolutely horrendous and I really do not want to have to go through that again. So I think the way it works is that in the first 2 games it's Kelly versus Ultra Player, and then this is technically the second game of the first half of the 4 games of playoffs essentially. So basically what I'm trying to say is that the winner of Panther and Bird, which is this matchup, is going to face the winner of Kelly and Ultra Player. So then that means the winner of Dye and Blue faces either me or Clutch for round 2 of playoffs. So even if Panther wins here, there is a chance that we still don't have to play him, but then we might have to play either Kelly or ultraplayer if we are able to win our round 1 and round 2 matches. So yeah, there's still a chance we could play Panther. Hopefully we don't though. Fingers crossed here my boy Bird can pull out an upset victory, which, to be fair, Bird's matchup is really not that bad, although let's be honest, Marshadow is absolutely terrifying. For those of you who were with me for my GBA run, you will know that Marshadow is an absolute beast of a Pokemon, man. Nothing resists its hits, but the nice thing about that is that with Slowbro and Arceus, they can run berries to deal with Marshadow. Not to mention, actually no, the Spectral Thief go through Mimikyu's ability? I actually don't even know if it does or doesn't. I don't know. If you guys know whether or not Spectral Thief goes through Disguise, please let me know. Because if it doesn't, the Mimikyu can be like the ultimate check to Marshadow, forcing it in and out, which would be amazing, especially if Bird is able to get up his hazards, that chip damage, and then if Marshadow's Life Orb is going to be taking so much damage wearing itself down. Although I guess it could still Shadow Sneak, and then Shadow Sneak doesn't break Disguise. So even if Panther Shadow Sneaks, then he'll break the Disguise, but then Mimikyu can still hit it. But then there's mind games on like, is Mimikyu gonna Shadow Sneak? So if he Shadow Sneaks, then Mimikyu can go for Play Rough, and just, I don't know, we'll see how things go. But I don't know, let me know. I'm not sure. I want to say that Spectral Thief does go through Disguise. I really do want to say that, but I'm not 100% sure. Unfortunately for Mimikyu though, Panther does have Granbull, Mudsdale, and Skarmory, which are just about hard stops to it unless Mimikyu does boost up and pops a Z move on it. So Bird is definitely gonna have to deal with those 3 in response to potentially trying to check the Marshadow with the Mimikyu if the Spectral Thief doesn't go through Disguise. Protein Greninja, in my opinion, is absolutely way more terrifying than Battle Bond Greninja. It is way too good. Then paired up with Marshadow, yeah, I definitely think that core is going to be a little bit difficult for Bird to deal with. I'm hoping that Bird can pull out the upset victory here. Speaking of the Bird, Tornadus is going to be a giant issue for Panther to deal with. I think he's basically forced to bring Lantern. Like, Lantern is the only real thing that can deal with Tornadus, but even then Tornadus could be like Gracium Z and just bop Lantern. So yeah, I'm not sure how Panther's gonna go about dealing with the Tornadus. I guess Mew could also deal with it, but a defensive Mew is not really what you always want to try and bring every single week. Although I guess in this case, its matchup is not entirely too bad. Bird definitely does have some mounts. As I said, he can be creative with his builds. So I want to give the edge here to my boy Bird, just because I don't want to play Panther, and the sooner Panther's out of playoffs, the less I have to worry about him. But of course, that's taking into consideration that we even win our round 1 playoff game, which I plan to win, so hopefully we can. So I didn't touch on Zardex. I don't feel like Zardex is really that big of a threat, just because Arceus can always tank a hit from it unless it Dragon Dances up twice, which I don't think Bird is going to let it do anyways. Then it's not really going to be that big of an issue. Although I guess like a fat Zardex like you brought against me might not be the worst thing ever. So that's why I didn't really initially pay too much attention to it. I feel like there's a Pokemon missing here. What is missing here? This is going to bother me now. Hold on. Can I find his tab? New South Whalmers. Is he missing a Pokemon? I feel like he's missing a Pokemon here. He's not missing a Pokemon here. So yeah, maybe I'm just going crazy, but then that would mean, okay, anyways, but yeah, this should definitely be an interesting battle. This could honestly really go either way, but I really want to put money on Bird winning, so I would have to go Bird winning, me winning, hopefully Blue winning, and then my boy Kelly winning. Those would be my picks for the playoffs here in an ideal world, but we'll see how things go. So yeah guys, that is going to be the quick run through of the playoffs for BBL. Let me know which match you are most excited for, and let me know what you thought of the season. I will see you all hopefully next week with the round 1 match of playoffs, and then from there hopefully we can make it to the semifinals and then the finals and win 1 more championship. So leave a like, leave a comment, and I will see you all later. So later, everybody.
Because my brain and heart are both tied in the knot, and this hinders me from crying a lot. This causing me to show no emotion. But when I said I cared, I wasn't joking. But I guess it's too late for me to become broken. For now, I'm living with no more pain, tears of hoping. I'm just coasting. Yeah, I said I'm coasting. No more pain, tears, and hoping. For real.